This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show.
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show. Thursday.
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show.
What's happening, everybody?
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? This is the Buffy and Lamar show. I'm your host, Lamar Quincy, back for another episode of the show, alongside my co-host, the special, the elegant, the superior being that she is Janita M, a.k.a. Buffy.
What's up?
What up, Buffy?
I'm outside, kinda.
Are you still social distancing, though?
I definitely am.
You are?
I haven't seen anybody but you and your kids.
So you feel like that's a bad thing that you've only seen us?
No.
I feel a
you guys
little
are
offended.
Cool. I'm glad I kind of like y'all, so that's good.
Just kind of?
Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's how we get.
I love y'all, but I kind of like y'all most days.
Oh, okay.
It's been a lot. It's like a night in overload.
Yeah. So how are you feeling during this whole pandemic and quarantine and all of that?
I'm actually feeling good. I think it's like just kind of picking up on how other people feel.
Mm-hmm.
That really kind of affects me.
Right.
So I'm kind of rather stay in the house because then,
Right.
inside our house we can control, what's going on, what we're, watching, what we're listening to, that kind of thing. And it kind of,
Yeah.
keeps us good.
It's really making me not want to go outside.
I know.
I get this really eerie, zombie-like feeling every time I go outside.
And people are scared and panicking, and it's just really weird.
Yeah.
I've never felt that before.
I've never felt that either. Like everybody's got their masks on, and I understand everybody's taking the necessary precautions, cleaning, hand sanitizing, and things of that nature.
Right.
But it creates this really eerie kind of feeling when you go outside.
It's not fun outside anymore.
It's not fun. Like nobody seems to be enjoying themselves when they're outside.
No. They're just outside. You go, you get what you gotta get, and you like rush back into the house.
Right. Very, very sympathetic to the people who may have succumbed to coronavirus and lost their lives or have gotten sick. Thankfully, a lot of people have gotten better from it, but at the same time,
I'm kind of sad that they don't share those reports as much as they share
the people that have gotten over it.
Right. Like, there's been a lot of people that have gotten over it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that would be a good thing to focus on.
Right.
I know it's sad when people are losing family members, and
Right.
it's just kind of crazy. But, you always have to kind of keep hope out there for people so that we know that it is possible. So.
Right. Well, I'm going to speak it right now. Like, this thing is going to end,
Yes,
and it's going to end very soon, and we can possibly somehow get back to normal way of life.
Right.
It may take some time, but I do believe that we can get back to it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see people unified and
Yeah, all of the good things that came out of it.
people spending time with their families,
Yeah.
doing things that they normally wouldn't do
Right.
amongst the hustle and bustle of everyday life.
Like going to a Diddy party. We went to our first
You
Diddy
didn't go.
party the other day.
No,
I did go.
No, you didn't.
I was at a Diddy
No,
party all day long.
Sorry. You
I'm
was
not
at home.
listening to you.
You was at home.
Whatever.
You was home
Anyway.
watching Diddy dance.
Anyway.
That
Diddy
wasn't
had
a
a
Diddy
party
party.
the other day.
I'm
a
pretty sure if you
dance-a-thon.
went to an actual Diddy party, you would know the difference.
How do you know? You haven't been.
That's okay. I'm pretty sure, but I feel like it's safe
Think
to
it would be a
assume.
difference?
Yeah, I can tell the difference.
I had a good time, and he raised $4 million, which was dope.
Did he?
Yes.
Wow. Shout out to Diddy.
Yeah, that was really good.
$4 million? I was kind of surprised.
million.
Like, they were dancing all day.
All day, all
Like,
night.
I got on my IG
Right.
And then I got off and got back on like
They were
hours later,
still
and they were
there.
still like, "Yo, he's still dancing."
Yeah.
But that was good.
That was good. It was for a good cause. So he was raising money for the nurses.
The nurses and stuff.
So that was awesome.
Yeah, that was
So
really
it's been
good.
some positive stuff.
It
to come
has.
out of
People
it,
are
definitely.
really being creative. It's
Yeah.
causing people to become creative in how they present things to the
Right.
world, and just how we operate. And then we kind of see the genuine creative nature
Yeah,
of
everybody.
everybody. Yeah.
And it's shining a light on people that aren't usually well represented or respected,
Yeah.
and they actually do some really good things that obviously hold our world together and keep it going.
Right.
So I mean, that just goes to show you need to give everybody respect for what they do every day.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then one last thing too, just a few points. One last thing is, the virus and the pandemic is really, I think, helping people to understand that their value as human beings or as an individual doesn't really come from what they do on an everyday basis,
Right.
like your job or that's not where the value is
Right.
in you as an individual.
Exactly.
And it's giving you an opportunity to really realize and understand that.
Yep.
So what we talking about today?
We are talking about us.
We talking about us.
Yeah.
You want me to lay it out?
Yeah, you go ahead and lay it out.
So for
Lay it
whatever
on out.
reason, people seem to think that we don't have arguments and disagreements.
Still? They still think?
I guess.
You still get that a lot from people?
I don't think I've had to explain it in quite a while. But I used to get it a lot. I don't know if I'd be curious to ask somebody now what they thought about, our relationship, just from an outside looking in.
Right.
I'd be curious to know what they thought. But in the past, I've had people say to me, "Oh, well, it seems like you guys don't argue at all."
Right.
And I was like, "Yo, that's not."
That is not true.
That is not true. That's false information. Why are you spreading that around? I mean, okay, if you want to speak that over our lives, I receive it, but that's not the case.
Right.
So today we're talking about the argument that we had last week. Was it last week?
Yeah, last week. It was a couple arguments.
Was it a couple of arguments in the midst of a overall argument?
Probably.
There was like sub arguments.
Yeah. Like sub arguments.
Like mini divisional arguments.
Yeah, it was like a bullet point argument, and then there was like a and B.
You know what? I don't even like to really call them arguments anymore.
What would you like to call them?
They're more like disagreements.
Okay.
And I think that when we argue, and not just when we as people in relationships, when we argue, I think that most of the time the reason why you get upset is because you feel like the other person doesn't really get it.
Why is that? Like, why do we feel like we want somebody to just get it? Like, why is that so important?
I don't know. It's really frustrating when you have an idea in your head,
Right.
and you
want somebody to
can't
understand.
get somebody to really kind of understand.
Right.
I mean, you probably understand, but you have
want them to like get it.
you want them to get it,
Yeah.
but then the other person has a different idea in their head, and then
Right.
they want you to get their idea.
Right.
So, what
so
was
if
it?
you just got all of my ideas in your head, then we'll be straight.
And that just kind of leaves me. Where does that leave me?
Happy.
You want me to adopt all your ideas?
Yeah, just adopt all my ideas and beliefs, and we'll be straight. We wouldn't
Then
have
that's
any
the
more
case. You might
arguments.
as well just marry you.
I don't know about all that.
Exactly. You feel like you could be married to you?
No.
Hence, you feel like I can't.
Yeah, you can do it. You're dope. You got it.
So what were we beefing about? It's
You know
cool to
what?
talk about it now on the show.
Yeah, it's always cool after. And it always seems crazy because, like, we thought about, bringing this up on the show, and I asked you many times, like, wait a minute, what were we arguing about again? Which
Right.
shows you how stupid most arguments are because afterwards you don't even really remember what it was about.
Do you remember what it was about?
Not really.
Wow. And it was kind of a big deal. I
It
mean,
was
it
a big
was, but it
deal.
wasn't.
It was a big deal in the moment, but we kind of worked through it.
Right. So I'm going to tell y'all what we argued about.
All right, remind me.
So first of all, when you get something new, you really, really go,
You talking about me?
yes, you. This is you personally.
Okay.
So when you get something new or a new idea or
Okay.
you discover something, you really, really go in with it.
Okay.
So you discovered TikTok. And it's crazy because I was thinking about it, and you know how we kind of talk about how our daughter Imani kind of engulfs everybody else in what she has going on.
Yeah,
You kind of do the same thing sometimes.
I do.
Not with everything, but sometimes you do.
With stuff I'm really interested
With stuff that you're really into,
in. Okay.
you kind of,
And you didn't
Suck.
want to be engulfed in my love of TikTok?
I didn't.
Wow.
And then where the argument came in is because you felt like I was supposed to know how important it was to you at that moment.
Obviously.
Really?
Yes. Anything that I'm showing interest in is important, and you should support that as much as you can. Like, I already realize
So-
you're not going to be as interested in TikTok because it's way out of character for you. So,
But I felt like you didn't really understand that.
No, I definitely understood that because I could have had you doing TikToks like from sun up to sundown, but I didn't do that.
So you feel like because you didn't do that, then
Then the compromise should be you doing the ones that I picked out for you to do.
so to me,
So that's where the argument started.
well, to me, it feels all right. So I'm gonna speak for most guys
Okay.
in this instance. For me, something like that can really get misinterpreted by a guy as being silly.
Really?
Like, my first thought is, why are we having an argument over TikTok?
Right.
Right?
But it was deeper than that.
But it was deeper than that. And on the surface, it was seemed to be silly. But when you dig deeper into it,
Right.
there's a little bit more to it.
Right.
So
Because
that's
you refused to do the TikTok.
I didn't do it,
You didn't do the TikTok. And then I got upset.
and you got upset. So from there, during this disagreement or argument, I kind of felt like, and then here's where it kind of went on. I kind of felt like this was something that we could have handled really quickly and got out the way.
Right.
Tell me what's your beef about it. Tell me how you feel.
Right.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. But that didn't happen.
Right.
So we were kind of like distant and bumping heads
Right.
the
'Cause
rest
it
of that
made
evening.
it made me more upset than I thought that it would.
Right.
And I just started getting more and more angry. And I was like, wow, I really can't talk about this right now because it's making me really upset.
Right.
So, like, one of the things that I like to do is I don't really want to come to you anymore. And this is something that I've learned over the years.
Right.
So, I don't really want to come to you anymore before I know why I'm upset. Because then you just have, like, shouting matches and,
Right.
you start talking about people's mama and stuff like that. Like, that's where all of that stems from because you don't even really know why you're upset.
Right.
So I've tried to like just kind of get in touch with why am I having this emotion? What made it, so much to me or so big to me that I really am feeling some kind of way.
Right.
So if that takes a long time, then we might not be talking for a minute.
So I guess we kind of got into that because obviously, like I said before, we really kind of had to dig and find out why you
Right.
were getting so upset.
Right.
And like you said, you didn't really know.
Right.
The problem was we didn't really make that clear.
Make what clear?
The fact that you needed to take a minute to figure out why you were
Right.
upset, right?
Yeah, I didn't communicate that.
You didn't communicate that, but at the same time, I didn't ask you either.
Right.
Because I'm thinking in my head, like, dang, is this really happening?
Right.
Like, are
She
we
really gonna make a TikTok argument?
Yeah, like, is this really a TikTok argument?
Quarantine TikTok.
So in the process of that, we had to kind of make sure that we took it deeper. And that's kind of what we do. We've learned to do over time is really dig
Yeah.
and find out the underlying issue of, because you could start an argument over a bottle cap.
Really good.
But if you don't find what the underlying issue is, then you're going to have a hard time. And then you get
Yeah.
down the line and be like, what was he arguing about again?
You don't even know. Yeah.
And you don't even know. So, like, what was the underlying issue that we kind of came to of why that made you so upset? I remember what it is. You remember?
A little bit.
So you
That's
told.
so bad, isn't it?
Why
Like,
don't
it
you
was-
remember
I
that?
don't know. I think after we get over something, I just kind of put it in the back of my mind.
Right.
Like, as soon as you remind me, I'll remember. What was it?
The underlying issue was, for one, you felt like it was a string of opportunities for me to recognize things that were important or of value to you.
Oh, yes. So that, yeah.
And then I
definitely.
kind of also, you felt like I kind of discredited your interests in
Right.
front of the kids.
Right. Okay. So that was like really, really deep. And it took me a while to figure it out because on the surface, yeah, an argument about TikTok is stupid.
Right.
But every emotion, like, it has something behind it. So I was working like a long time. So it took me to the next morning until I figured out what it was. And it was like, well, I didn't really feel like you value things that I'm interested in enough. So that was really why I got upset because, it's kind of an overall kind of feeling that I was having that we didn't really address. And then when that came up, it was like, oh, it's just one more thing.
Right.
And then with us being around our kids all the time, it wasn't like it happened in private
Right.
because they're there all the time right now. So it was just like, why does he do this?
So after that conversation, now this is something that I don't really remember as much. After that conversation, I know we came to some sort of conclusion because I'm thinking in my head, like, all right, so if I need to be mindful or
Right.
really recognize things that are of value to you, but may not necessarily have value to me, like, how do I handle myself in that situation? Because
Right. Like, what will that look like?
what's that going to look
Yeah.
like? Because even if, and we'll use just TikTok as an example, even if TikTok is a thing for you, it's still not a thing for me.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, how am I supposed to maneuver in a situation like that?
Yeah, and I think I think that's kind of a weird issue for us because of the fact of how we regularly kind of interact with each other.
Yeah.
So we already have always allowed each other to have separate interests. We like different things, and we don't necessarily feel like we have to do those things together all the time.
Right.
So we always have kind of operated in that way. So that's really not a huge issue. So I guess it was more like, just kind of making sure that you have a general interest in what the other person is interested in. Just to kind of,
What is a general interest?
like wanting to know, asking questions,
Right.
being supportive, maybe, finding a way where you can participate, even if you don't want to participate all the time.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Finding a way to participate, even if you don't want to
Yeah,
participate
because even if it's
fully.
not your thing, like, I hate golf. I think it's the stupidest thing to spend your time watching.
Whoa.
You feel attacked?
You
It's like-
blaspheme on the show like that?
Yeah. But, like, I'm not interested in it. And you love watching golf. I think it's so dumb. But that doesn't mean that I need to come and sit down with you every time you watch golf and act like I'm so interested in it.
Right.
But I can also come sometimes, ask you some questions about the stuff that I don't understand, find out who's playing. So, when golf season is in, I usually have a general idea of what's going on because my husband likes golf. It
Right.
doesn't mean I have to be in it.
So you felt like at no point in time during that engagement over the TikTok that I showed any interest. I kind of like dismissed it.
You tried.
I tried to
You
show
tried
interest.
yeah, a little bit.
I don't get the E.
You get a little E. You get like a lowercase E. Not the, not the uppercase E with the smiley face.
So I
you
don't
get like a lowercase
I don't
E.
get no points for the little E.
No, you're a little
I mean,
bit.
it seemed like I didn't show any effort the way that you was kind of like upset about it.
Because you were just like so over it. But, whatever.
Well, I'm glad we made it past that because it
Yeah,
kind of took us into some other things where we started talking about something new that you discovered, apology languages.
Yes.
So there's, I don't know if everybody knows, there's a book
Right.
called The 5 Love Languages, right? And
Yes.
in that book,
Which is amazing.
It's
if
a great
you haven't
book.
done that test or read that book yet, you should definitely do it.
you should definitely do it. So in that book, it gives 5 ways that people receive love, right? I'm not going to go specifically into the 5,
Right.
but there are 5 ways that people receive love, and everybody has 2, right? For the most part, everybody has 2.
Yeah, you should have like
You
two.
should have like 2.
Or you're like top 2.
Your top 2. Some people may have a couple, but there's usually a top 2.
Yeah, definitely.
And in that, it helps the other person to understand how to communicate love to you, right? So, interestingly enough, you found that there are apology languages too.
There are. So it's by the same guy, Gary Chapman.
Okay.
So there's 5 apology languages because what we were finding out in our relationship was that we would have an argument or disagreement, and then you would say sorry, and I'll be like, man, because it really didn't.
You just flick me away.
Yeah, I just flicked you away because it really didn't mean anything to me. And I always wanted to know, like, why
Yeah.
did I not care when you said sorry, or why did it never feel like it was enough?
Right.
And that frustrated me so bad. So when I came across this, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I never really thought about it, but people like to be apologized to in a specific way.
Right.
So you ready for the 5?
I'm ready for the 5, but before you lay out the 5,
Okay.
all right. So before I knew about this, actually, I'm sorry. Let me say it like this. Before we had our disagreement, you had sent me these apology languages, and I got the apology languages, and I was just kind of like, oh, this is nice that you're sharing these apology languages with me.
Mind you, we had a full telephone conversation, and I was like, oh my God, baby, listen to what I just found online. This is dope. Like, there's 5 apology languages, like it's love languages. Let me read them to you. I went through the 5, and we kind of talked about it, and then you was like, oh yeah, I think that's probably you, number 1 and number 2. We had this whole conversation, and he thought it was just a conversation.
So from our conversation, what did you gather? You gathered that.
I gather that you got it, and you were on board, and you were just as excited about this finding as I was. And I thought we were going to incorporate it in our relationship.
Did you say that?
No, probably not. But
You didn't say
this
that.
is what I got from our conversation. That's the conversation I was having. I don't know what conversation you were having.
Okay. So in the midst of this disagreement, right? And everything that we're talking about has to do with effective communication, right?
Yeah.
So during this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is nice information. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for sharing that information. We had a conversation about it, and I was like, that's great. I
Did
will.
you think like, oh, this would be good for somebody else? Like,
Nah, I
what?
just kind of think that I was thinking that, put it like this. I didn't think that I was going to have to exercise it that quickly. So I think in my head, I I kind of put it to the side as
Right.
if, all right, I got some time to kind of look over this in my leisure
Right.
and figure it out when I'm going to use it and
Right.
how to process it. Because with love languages, that's kind of the same thing
Yeah.
that happened. It's just like, all right, well, this is it's a tool that we have. We can use it. I'll get to it and start to learn it and study it.
Because it took you a while, a few times with us kind of.
Yeah, it took a while
going
to
over
gather.
it, yeah.
So that was really what I gathered from that conversation. Like, okay, this is something new. Let's go ahead to begin to implement
Right.
into our relationship. Not knowing that I was going to have to try to exercise it a couple of days later. So that's what I gathered from the conversation. It was
Right.
just like, oh, this is great information. We should start using it. And I was like,
Nice.
okay, cool. And then a couple of days later, in the midst of our dispute, you're like, did you even get the information that I gave you? And I'm like, what information? Wow. The I don't know, is it 5? The apology languages. Yeah, I got it.
I think I got
I
it.
think I'm pretty sure if I go back
I
through
think
my
I
text,
saved it.
I got
like,
it.
What? This is gold.
So, but the thing
Yeah.
about it is the miscommunication was like,
Right.
for some reason beyond me, you were speaking women language
Yeah.
and your woman language had it
Whole nother conversation.
a whole nother conversation as if I like locked
I
that
envisioned
in.
like light bulbs going off in your head.
Why
and
did you envision
you were
that?
just like so
That's what was happening in your
excited.
head.
Yeah, that was happening in my head. So it was obviously happening to you as well. And I was thinking like, oh, he's at work and he's like, yes, I can't believe she called me. And I envisioned that you had like a notepad and you were writing notes and stuff.
You guys
like that.
have vivid imaginations.
I think that might just be me. Don't put that on all women. That might just be me. But you were writing your little notes and you were like ready to go. And you were
I didn't
so
write
grateful.
notes. Did you see me writing notes?
In my mind, you were writing notes and you were so grateful that I called you with this pertinent information
We should do movies.
for my imagination.
Yo, whatever you imagine, just let me know so we can try to
Write
shoot
it
a
down.
movie about it.
That would have been a great
Like you got
scene.
this Steven Spielberg kind of vibe going on with your imagination, and it's dope.
Yeah. Yeah, you did not come through on that.
So ultimately,
All right.
those were all of the things that we kind of disputed about and talked about. And I guess what we drew from it is once again, once we kind of dug deeper into the conversation to find out why we were arguing about this and why these things were happening,
Right.
it helped us to get a better understanding of, how to move forward past it.
Yeah.
Because, like, in a relationship, man, you don't want to break up over a TikTok.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, oh my gosh, you guys been together for so long. Why'd you break up? Because he didn't do this TikTok.
Yeah, and they would have been like, what?
Like, what?
But,
It
again,
happens.
it can happen,
Yeah.
especially if you don't really kind of tackle
Yeah.
these things and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Another thing is we identified that we place a different value on certain things
Right.
in the midst of that conversation. Now, mind you, this conversation that we began to have about this argument, it happened like the next day.
Right.
So this wasn't a conversation where this wasn't a perfect,
Right.
ideal disagreement.
Right. It didn't happen.
It
and
wasn't
then
smooth.
I sat you down and was like,
Yeah, it wasn't like,
what? This
you
is
know
why
what?
you did this.
Yeah, it wasn't
That's
that.
how I feel.
So we had this disagreement. We really didn't speak or communicate the rest of the evening.
Right.
And it was kind of limited communication while I was processing it, and then you were trying to figure out why you were
Right.
so upset, and you were getting more and more upset.
Right.
And then finally, the next day, we actually
Had the conversation.
had the conversation. So this is something that didn't happen until the next day.
Yeah.
So in that, we found that we value certain things. We identified that you place high value on things that have to do with experiences,
Making
memories, family time, things of that nature, which TikTok kind of falls in. It falls under that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like doing stuff, especially while we're quarantined.
Right. Right.
This is something that we can do together as a family.
Right.
and things of that nature. So you had a high value on that.
Right.
And I think that that's the part that I kind of really missed about the TikTok. It really
Right.
wasn't about the TikTok.
Right. It wasn't.
It was
about
more
that,
about your interest and placing a higher value on the things that you
Right.
wanted to do. Right. So that's what we came to the conclusion of.
And you place a higher value on finances,
Yeah.
money, making sure things are stable for our future in place,
Rightfully so.
which is a good balance. So, like, that's why we want to kind of remind people, you know, you'll have different values.
Right. But you got to appreciate them and
Appreciate
recognize them.
recognize them, figure out what they are,
Yeah.
put them together, because together they actually make a really great plan for your life.
Right.
Because one without the other would suck.
That's true.
That's why we're together,
Right.
you know?
So going back to, something that we've always said, well, not always said, but something that we've learned, we're together in order to complement each other's weaknesses.
Right.
So those values that
Or
I have,
eliminate each other's weaknesses.
or eliminate each other's
Right.
weaknesses, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So those values and things of that nature that we have, they just kind of strengthen each other,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. So kudos to us for getting to the bottom of that
Yay.
disagreement.
We'll try to do it a little faster next time.
Yeah, well, as long as we figure it out. So I would
Yeah, that's
encourage
good.
everybody, if you're having a disagreement with your spouse, especially during quarantine,
Coral.
a quarantine quarrel, cool off first.
It's
Right.
okay to cool off.
It's okay to
but
cool off.
tell your spouse you need time to cool off.
You got to communicate.
Yeah,
Listen,
definitely. I need
you
a
gotta,
minute.
yeah, you're like, listen, I need a minute.
Yeah.
Let me cool off. But if you cool off, you can't just brush it under the rug.
Yeah,
you got to go
come
back
and
to it.
address it. Yeah, definitely.
So cool off, you know what I'm saying? And just have a conversation. Have a real, genuine conversation about
Right.
why this disagreement may have happened. It may have something to do with childhood or past experiences, and really get to the bottom of the why,
Right.
right? So hopefully that helps some people out. And hopefully us sharing our business with y'all is helping you
Definitely.
support your nosiness.
Yes.
I'm just kidding, y'all.
So definitely check out the 5 love languages if you haven't already. Take the quiz, figure out what it is.
Yeah.
What yours are, rather. So let me give you the 5 apology languages.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
Number 1 is expressing regret.
Right.
Number 2 is accepting responsibility. 3 is making restitution. 4 is genuinely repenting, and 5 is requesting forgiveness.
So the funny thing about you is like you have all of them.
I don't have all of them. I have
You
like
got
3.
like 4 out of the 5, which I'm kind of like, you kidding me, dude?
So
like
you-
mine is
yeah,
1.
right.
I got not number 1, but
Yeah, it's
I
just
have one of
thing.
them, and that's I think number 2.
Accepting responsibility.
Accepting responsibility.
Right.
All I want you to do is say I was wrong
Right.
and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and I'm good. Keep it moving.
Mine is like, you need some time for your apology to me. You need to think about it. You need to sit down and prepare yourself and present your apology. And then I'll be good. But you have to know that first, because number 2 is just not enough for me. I'm like, okay.
I almost feel like my apology is like just being in timeout. It's like, yo, I gotta apologize. What am I gonna do? Like, I'm
Right.
in timeout. I gotta just go through these. But the thing about it though is, like I was telling you in our conversation, having that list
Yeah.
will make things 100% better.
You need tools, because
So
like,
I'll just
yeah.
refer to that list, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right,
Let me make sure I mention
let me
this.
let me go down this line, and
Right.
like, and then there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So if we ever have
Yeah.
if we have another argument or disagreement in the near future, and I need to apologize,
Right.
I'm gonna open my phone and I'm gonna look at your 4 apology languages,
It's not 4.
and I'm gonna be like, all right, let me do this one, and I'm gonna check it off,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna do the next one, and I'm gonna check it
There's
off.
nothing wrong with that. I really think that people like seriously feel like there's something wrong with being that detailed about your relationship and how you interact with another human being.
Right.
Like if you want to be successful, no, you need tools for anything that you want to be successful in.
Right.
There's certain things that you do and, you know, the ways you act and operate
Yeah.
to be a success. So you can't just be in a marriage relationship that's going to last your entire life
Right.
without actually working at it, having, you know, tools and things that'll help you.
Right.
So, like, okay, so with number one, expressing regret, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was good because they give you an example of what it would sound like. So,
Right.
expressing regret is just like, I'm sorry I hurt you.
Right.
Number two, which is yours, is, I'm sorry I was wrong. Just kind of taking responsibility, moving on. Making resolution is number three, and that sounds like, what can I do to make this up to you?
Mm-hmm.
Number four is genuinely repenting. That would sound like, I know what I did, it was wrong. I will not do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Five is requesting forgiveness. And that one is like,
Baby,
I don't
baby,
know.
please.
Yeah, that's like a
Baby,
bacon
please.
one. Yes,
Oh.
exactly.
That's what that is.
That's like
number
an
5.
old school
Yeah.
love song kind of apology.
Yeah.
But yeah, so check those out. Those are great tools, the love languages, apology languages for any argument, so you guys can get through this.
Yeah. And during quarantine, you may have to refer to those tools quite a bit.
And you have time, so don't act like you don't have time.
Yeah, you got time.
You can read
You
both books.
You can read them, and then you can use them the next day when you get into an argument.
Right.
How about that?
Yes.
So hopefully you guys got something from this. We would like to be a lot more transparent and share some of our challenges and issues that we have, and also how we get through them. And
Yes.
this was an opportunity to share. We worked through it. We got to the bottom of it, and everything is all good. All right.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening to the show. Visit our Facebook, The Buffy and Lamar Show, Instagram, at Buffy and Lamar, TikTok,
At Buffy and Lamar.
at Buffy and Lamar. Might just be at Buffy because
It should just be at
I ain't gonna
Buffy.
be doing too
If
many
you
TikToks.
go there, it's mostly Buffy.
Where else? Oh, so subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get these dope episodes every Thursday.
Yes.
And then website www.buffyandlamar.com. And also, again, you can stream the audio podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, iHeart, TuneIn Radio, and coming soon, Pandora. We'll be on Pandora soon. I'd like to feel this time we can make that announcement. So
Yes.
soon we'll be on Pandora. So again, thank you guys for listening to the show. We will be back next Thursday. You guys stay in good health, stay safe, take care of one another. And Buffy, you got anything you want to add?
No,
No, you good?
I'm good. That's it.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Buffy and Lamar Show. We'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.